You're listening to the Getting Salty Experience podcast.
And we are back. Welcome back. There we go. Welcome back to the Firehouse Kitchen Table. Like nobody else can do it. It's how we do it at Getting Salty Experience podcast.
The Oval Office.
We're at the Oval Office or Petey's basement, or my little hole-in-the-wall podcast studio. But, for all intents and purposes, we're all sitting to...
No. I got. Oh, there it is. Now it's better.
Oh, much better.
For all
now he's in the studio.
Purposes, we are all sitting together at the Firehouse Kitchen Table with not one, not two, but three esteemed guests tonight. We got a good one. We got a good random thoughts with guys that have been around on more time on the job than probably half these guys are living today. That's what we got. That's what only we bring, Ruffy. Us. Right here. This right here. Yep. Yeah. All right. So you're back from your little trip up on Golden Pond. You good now?
I'm back, baby.
You're good. All's good. You feel refreshed?
I feel refreshed. I'm ready to go tonight. I got
my ready. You're ready to go?
You gonna do a triple Lundy?
Yeah, triple Lindy.
Lindy?
You gonna do the triple Lindy? Did you do the triple Lindy in the lake? No?
No, I didn't.
I don't like swimming in lakes. Do you swim in the lake when you go?
Yeah.
We're gonna pond in a pool.
Pond would be good for you. Pond would be good for you, Petey.
Yeah. It's just a little squishy in the lake. I don't know.
Yeah,
squishy.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have like. Probably wears I know he probably wears some kind of shoes.
Look at his face. He knows it's coming too. He's just like, oh no.
He's the only guy in the gym that wears those shoes that your toes,
does he?
Yeah, he wears toe shoes. Yeah.
I have.
You have.
Of course. Why would try? Why wouldn't I?
Why wouldn't you? You could wear those in the lake.
Because there's a ton of idiots in the gym taking their stinky, stupid shoes off to get flat feet for their deadlifts and all that shit. But no one would ever wear those fucking flat shoes.
Sneakers won't take care of that. I mean,
you could wear those squishy things in the squishy lake.
If you have any heel lift on the sneakers, your foot's off balance and you're all out of whack.
Oh, Coobs. Again, coming from a ruck packer, you would know these things.
I'm sorry.
I mean,
what kind of footwear do you use to ruck? What do you got? Yeah, like that.
I like Solomon's. I do like Solomon's. Yeah,
He did give me some when I was looking. I was going out.
He gave you rucking advice?
No, when I was going out hunting, I was going out elk hunting. I was supposed to go in September this year, but it's not happening. But he was giving me all. He did a lot of research in the past. Solomon's are
good. Solomon's are good.
Yeah.
What was the other one you gave me with the kit?
Solomon Quest 4D.
Take it easy. Take it easy.
The Solomon.
The Hemsley Hem with the three-quarter tweeter. That one.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Keens. Yeah. Keens was
Keens are all right. Keens are all right.
All right.
Yeah. Keens Feminine Fashions.
And Kentrick. Is it Kentrick?
I don't know about that.
Dude, they're like $500.
Oh, yeah? Nice.
Yeah.
Count me
out.
Yeah, Solomon's are good balance.
You could buy with your money. You could buy one of those for every day of the week. You kidding me?
Different color.
Yeah.
I'm on a fixed income.
Oh, right. Paycheck to paycheck.
Paycheck to paycheck. Only his paychecks come in every day.
Oh,
oh yeah. Yep.
Nice, man. So you guys want to pay the bills so we can get our esteemed
colleagues
in
there?
Okay, well, as everyone knows, we only seek to bring you the best, the finest sponsors in the game. And tonight we bring you, as always, New Jersey Fire Equipment Company. Established in 1930 and under the current ownership since 1987, the New Jersey Fire Equipment Company handles a complete line of fire department equipment and supplies. Headquartered in Greenbrook, the company operates full 3M Scott service facilities in Ridgefield Park and Toms River, staffed by 10 fully authorized Scott certified technicians with a fleet of 6 fully equipped service vans. All New Jersey fire technicians and sales representatives are active or retired firefighters, officers or chief officers, career and volunteer. They understand the business and the importance of their work. New Jersey Fire has represented Scott since Earl Scott entered the SCBA business at the end of World War II. Among other leading manufacturers represented by New Jersey Fire are Globe and Firedex turnout gear, Mercedes hose, Task Force tips and Akron brass, Hygenol, fire hooks, Arctic compressors, MSA Carnes helmets, ChemGuard foam, Alkalite and Duo safety ladders, BA face shield protectors, Truckman's Choice saws, Grove's gear racks and washer dryers, Supervac fans, RPI, Streamlight, and many others. A New Jersey incorporated and based company, sales and service are limited to the state of New Jersey. Find us now at www.njfe.com. That's www.njfe.com. Coobs is muted.
Thank God.
Yeah, he muted himself.
I muted myself. That's my boy Jimmy down in New Jersey, I was saying.
Nice,
I muted
Jimmy.
myself.
All
Jimmy
right.
in Jersey. Yeah.
Two more quick things, everybody. Three, actually, real
Get
quick. GettingSaltyApparel.com, where you will find the finest hats, t-shirts, apparel, accessories, firefighter apparel and accessories in the game. That's how we support ourselves and support the show. So head on over to GettingSaltyApparel.com to find something for yourself or the firefighter in your life. Also, guys, if you're watching live, don't be shy. Hit us up in the super chat. You guys are our number one sponsors, of course, number one syndicators. So if you guys are feeling generous, hit us up with anything in the super chat. If you have a question that you absolutely have to have answered, keep it on topic and hit us up in the super chat. Also, guys, there is the super thanks. If you are watching this post-mortem, not live, you could do the same thing as super chat right there. So if you feel like it, hit us up. If not, cool. Keep watching. We appreciate all the help. Thank you.
All right, I got a quick one before we get to the guest. Garrett Lindgren, I saw you in the chat there. Please do me a favor and send me your email.
I already told you. I sent you. He's not coming. He can't. I already sent it to you. Texted you tonight.
You did? Garrett, strike that. Whatever you do, don't say your address on the... All right, listen, put your ears, turn them up, turn the hearing aids up, and you have to really pay attention and pick all the information out of these old codges that we got coming on tonight, bro. Engine tactics, engine ops, put your hearing aids on, pay attention, get a cup of coffee, and get as much as you can out of this episode. We're going to introduce one at a time. We're going to go by seniority, by the senior man down to the junior man. Senior man, we're going to start off with Lieutenant Rick Bruno. Shit hot, turn in. There he is.
Looking good, looking good.
Welcome aboard, Lou.
Thank you for asking me back. It's an honor to be here again.
How's the summer going? Good?
A lot of stuff going on. A lot of grandpa duty. I hate retirement, and it's overrated.
He said duty. He did say duty. He's hanging out with the grandkids. So he's saying duty.
Yeah.
Poop, poop.
Well, the only good thing is you can give them back. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
No, they don't do that anymore.
Oh,
That's the last generation.
What they say over?
They realize. They realize what they got themselves into. So they keep them another day.
Yeah.
But
nice.
they're good boys.
Good.
Well, you look great, and welcome aboard. Thanks for coming on tonight. We're going to suck your brain dry tonight. Our next guest, I tell Ruffy all the time, this guy reminds me of my dad. I got a little bond with this guy. I love him. He feeds us a lot of stuff behind the scenes, too. Here he is, Lieutenant Bobby Sarno, coming on in. There he is.
There he is.
Look at it. Look at the tan on that son of a bitch right there.
That's part of the Italian skin there. He's got the oils. You know,
He's rubbing the olive oil when he's going to the beach. That's what he's doing.
Rubbing olive oils on.
Now.
Yeah.
Coobs, like all you Italians have that same thing.
You don't know that. Did you know that? Look, did you hear that show that I am part Italian? I revealed it a couple of shows ago.
25%, the poor bastard.
So us guineas, we can hang out. We can stick together. You know what I mean? All right, here we go. The last guy. You ready? You guys might know him as the bro of H2O, the sultan of the standpipe. But you may not know him as the rock star of the Rockwell. He's the horror of the smoothbore. He's the man who can make you laugh as you whip around the 2.5, bro. He can take 4 rooms of fire to the bank with just the booster tank. He's more than just hype. He's the human deck pipe. He's Mr. Universal. He's Mr. Multiversal. Here he is, Timmy Klett. Come on in, Timmy Klett. There he is.
Doing pretty good.
And he drives a Taurus.
Yes, I drive a Taurus. Yes, I bought
You
one.
see, just when you think I couldn't get any stupider, I pulled that one out of nowhere.
No, I realize you can get plenty stupid.
Yeah, you did.
All
right.
Good.
But we're gonna.
my
Hey,
God.
Pete, can you
Yeah.
switch Lieutenant Bruno, Lieutenant Sarno around so we get that whole thing going there? Or not?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There we go.
Beautiful. That's how we're gonna answer questions.
I'm smart, not like everybody says.
He's smart.
Smart,
First
Mikey.
of all, what are you drinking there, Lieutenant Klett? You got a little bourbon going on there?
Little bourbon.
Lieutenant Sarno, what do you got? You got a little cocktail?
Yes, Tito's and lemonade.
Oh, and you got the 289. 289.
289.
Where do
We
I-
got Tito and lemonade.
Oh,
Nice.
you too?
Yeah.
Look, I like it. Beautiful. All right, so who wants to start it off? Where do you want to start it off?
Oh, wait. We have one thing.
Oh, wait, we got to get, I'm sorry, Pete. My
You got to
bad.
get patriotic. No worries.
You're
No
right,
worries.
before Susie loses her panties over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, God forbid. All right, so here we go, guys, ladies and gentlemen, real quick. As always, the most patriotic show in the game, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bravo. Great job.
Nice.
All right, so do we want to start with the picks? Where do we want to start this off? I don't even know where to start with this yet.
Just to remind you, I just want to wish Ryan Warnock, who had that incident with Rescue 1 over the weekend, just wish him well and a speedy recovery.
Amen, brother.
And you know, it's not all about engines and trucks and rescue and squad. It's a combination of we do everything. And in any moment, something can go wrong. So
Dangerous job, even when you're doing things right?
Dangerous job.
Okay.
So just an overview, like what I learned 50 years ago, which is a big chunk of time. And over the course of, I'm the 70s guy, Bobby's the 80s guy, and Tim is the 90s guy. Things have changed dramatically. But what Bobby had mentioned, which maybe is a good way to start, and we're doing engine ops, when there's trouble with getting water on the fire, everybody knows you fucked up. So it's important to get the water. And going back to when I started, what was dramatically different with tactics, one engine, one line. You figured out things when you got to the scene because other than the box number and a street intersection, you really knew nothing about what you were getting into. And there was very little attention to detail about first due, second due, third due. Coming out of Brooklyn, everything was, get to the box. And just one other issue I think we should touch on a lot tonight. We all know when things go wrong, it's not one tragic major accident. It's a lot of little things added up to go wrong. Well, I think an unsung hero, and if he doesn't get it right, it bogs everything down. When he does it right, everything goes much easier. And that's the engine chauffeur. And I was blessed as a fireman with having great engine chauffeurs. As an officer, I had great engine chauffeurs. And if you think about it, they get you to the box. You're usually the first one there. They got to get your water supply. And these are all things you don't have to think about as an officer in particular.
Yeah.
So,
you gotta say, start water.
Yeah,
Right?
just,
You gotta say start water. That's it.
start
5
water.
minutes of fury is what that is.
Meanwhile, the guy's got to find the hydrant, find a parking spot, stay out of the way of the truck. Like all of these.
Yeah,
things,
and the paradox to that is if you're not too sure where to go, or Lou, where is that? And you get into the block and you're blocking out the truck and you took the wrong hydrant or you can't find the hydrant, everything goes to shit.
Yeah.
So, a lot of these guys that they're a lot younger now than what they used to be. It used to be that every engine chauffeur was like a 20-year guy.
Right.
And, through, I guess, the 90s into the 2000s, that started to go away.
Mm-hmm.
But, God bless them. They're conscientious. They do a great job. And everything hinges on that first due engine chauffeur having all his ducks lined up. That makes life easier for everybody else coming in after him.
There was no better transmission that I could give than Lou or Cap, you're on hydrant water. I was like, now I can take a breath for a second.
Well, again, getting back to what he just said. Imagine if he said he sees this, somebody's hanging out on the fire escape and the fire's underneath them, and he needs quick water, right? So not only do you have to get hydrant water, but you also have to drop the booster and try and get him water that way as fast as possible. The guys have to stretch the line as fast as possible. So, like the Lou was saying, how fast you could look like a champion, or even if some little things go wrong, it could look like you're you swung and missed at it. You know what I mean? And that could be little things that the line going under a tire, coming around the the rig, or any of that shit. So many.
But after you give after you dump the booster and you go on hydrant water to make sure you crack it so you refill the booster tank again, right? God forbid you lose water. So there's a million things going on in your head in that first couple of minutes.
A lot of balls in the air, as they say.
A lot of balls in the air.
A lot of balls.
A lot of puckering asses too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he was the guy. The engine chauffeur was the guy. The one guy in the fireground I never argued with, because anybody who worked in an engine, you get up there, you're ready for water, and you're calling for water, and whether he's ready or not, you want your water, and inevitably, because time on a fireground becomes so skewed. I mean, none of us here has ever called for water, and it seems like an eternity before it gets to the nozzle. And in reality, it's seconds. And inevitably, I mean, I've done it on several occasions. Hey, where's my water? And the chauffeur's like, hey, it's coming. I had a funny fire next to the firehouse, and it was during a snowstorm. And, there was no parking on the street. So we had a big amount of snow, and I parked on the hydrant. And we had a fire right next door to the firehouse. So I'm up on a second floor, and I call for water. And I inevitably, again, he was a great chauffeur, Marty Tye, great chauffeur. And inevitably, I call for water, and he says it's on its way. And I call him back. I go, hey, Marty, where's my water? And he says, it's going to be a second. Some assholes parked on the hydrant, which was me.
Swing
I said, okay, take your time, bro. Don't let me rush you.
Don't break the window. Bob, how was it? How was it when you got on? How would have seen you guys?
It was a continuation from what Rick said from the early '80s. So the rigs were the same, simple. The booster tank, you had to crank it. The doors were like half falling off. But by the end of the 90s, the rigs were getting much better, much more complicated. The gear was getting better. I can remember a lot of guys getting burned all the time. Knees, the knee burns and the thigh burns. And by the 90s and into the 90s, things were changing. The gear was getting much better. The rigs, I think it was a big change. I mean, I remember getting spares where you had to put nails in the side to keep the doors from flying open, and wire it with coat hangers. And then that slowly disappeared as the rigs got better. Like around '88, when they changed the hose beds, they took away the Conestoga top on the back and they made it just square, and then they proceeded to make better hose beds after that. So a lot of changes from like 81 to 91, rig wise, it's unbelievable.
Now, let me ask you guys a question. When the the Pro Pressure governor came in, all the computerized stuff that came into the rig that makes it supposedly easier for the chauffeurs, right? We used to say
93, the first ones came in.
Yeah.
Now, you don't have to do the dump valve anymore. There's a lot less you have to figure out in your head, right? But what's that? Yeah, right. The rust relief valve. It got easier, but to me, going to that many fires, you can practice it all you want and drill, but until you put under that pressure, until you put it under that gun, it's not the same. So I still think that even though they made it easier, the guys back then, because they were going to so many jobs and they were doing it so many times, it became more second nature. Because how many first two jobs do they go to now that you have to be working for? That I don't think that they get the experience that that 5 minutes, like I said, the 5 minutes of fury to be under that pressure, to where it becomes second nature.
Well, before that pro pressure governor, and me and Bob talked about it the other day, is some of these old time chauffeurs, they would operate that pump panel by just how it sounded. They could hear if there was a problem with that pump. They would know right away, by the pitch of that motor, whether that pump was operating efficiently or not. And nowadays they're over reliant really on that pro pressure governor. Right. They really, really are. They don't know how the pumps work. And most guys truly, don't know how that pro pressure governor works either. They really, really don't.
I was just going to say that, Tim, and again, because I know Bob is going to talk about it, because I know he knows very much about. He's always involved with the rigs and all that stuff. But just a quick, I felt like he just said it. The rigs were simpler back then, right? There was only a few working parts. So when the water, you adjusted that whatever the heck you called it. I remember doing that. A crank in the bottom, the water came out.
The rust relief valve.
Right. You cranked it back a little bit till the water stopped. You were ready to go, right?
Yeah. So you got your feet wet, right?
Right. And as soon as the pro pressure governor, if there was a problem with, like you said, Tim, if there was a problem, he could hear it. He knew, he knew what he had to do. That pro pressure governor is like looking at the camera. It's great when the camera's working. If the camera goes off, then what? You know what I mean?
Well, they all build off that preset. They all build off that preset, and they don't really even know what the preset comes from. We're like, in Rick's day, those chauffeurs were second to none. Those guys could have 3 lines off, and they would know just listening to it.
Yeah, their foot on the line.
If there was a problem with one of those lines, if they were sucking in a gravel out of the hydrant, they would know right away. They didn't need a computer to tell them that. And now, we become very, very reliant on a computer to tell us how the pump's working.
Well, when I went to chauffeurs,
I was going to say, we can't get out from under the technology, but we all have new cars. How many of us love all of the shit they put in new cars with the pedestrian warning and backup and then.
Backup.
I mean,
my wife's car beeps all the time. I don't even know what's going on.
What's going on? I still know how to change a tire.
Nobody knows what's going on. How about you learn to drive a car with all that shit?
When I went to chauffeur school in '86, I remember them teaching, how to supply 1 line, supply 2 lines. And the guy teaching me had like 30 years, 35 years. And I said to him once, well, how do I know if I have enough in this line? He goes, stand on it. When you're off the ground, then you know you have enough line. I mean, that was how things were then. It's just, now you can look at all the gauges and try to, do a little better. But
what happens if something goes sideways? Can they figure shit out, or they don't know? They're like,
a lot of times you just press one button, Kev, right? You press the button, everything was like this. That's it. You're good. The line charges, everything's great. The guys get water, and that's it. But
they've been addressing it. Like the FDNY is good as we are with our training manuals. We are engine poor. We really are. I mean, everything was based on a truck. Everything revolves around the truck. It really does. And the engines were a second nature. Like everywhere else in the firefighting universe, the truck supports the engine. In the New York City Fire Department, the engine supports the truck. And there's been a lot lost. And just recently, they've gone back. And with the water management drill, I think a lot of good came out of that about, if you had a line operating, you would open the fill tank to see if the hydrant, because people don't realize there's a difference between volume and pressure. You can have all the pressure you want, but no volume. You can have, so to see if you could supply 2 lines, they were having you pull the fill tank, and it would simulate another 2.5-inch line. And then you could watch that inlet gauge and see if you had enough water coming in to supply a second line. So we have kind of gone back to true, pumping operations with some of the stuff we've been looking at, but we're not back to Rick's day at all, where those guys were second to none.
Just Tim, you might know, this was a funny story. Most of what we have in the regs and how we operate is because something went wrong.
Yes.
And I think it was after the Black Sunday up in the Bronx.
Father's Day fire. And
all right. So that's when they started transitioning that, well, you know what? You don't have to start the engines and pressure. All right.
You go to
volume, the older rigs had the T handle. And apparently it was never a problem to start off in volume. But for those older rigs with the T-handle, they used to extend past the side of the rig, and they were getting chopped off all the time.
Yeah.
That's right.
So they decided, let's
Not
push the
that
handle out. You got to start out in pressure. Does that sound familiar, Tim?
Well, some of the findings after the Father Day fire, when they did the evaluations of what went on there, and they believed there was what they called the cavitation of the pump, and the pro pressure governor, again, the pro pressure governor didn't recognize that. I have my own beliefs about what happened there, and it was substantiated by someone that actually was there, that it was something else that led to the failure of that pump, because the second line there never lost water.
Wait, are we talking about the Black Sunday or the
Black
Father's
Sunday.
Day fire? Black Sunday.
Excuse me,
No,
Black
Black
Sunday.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
right.
But that was the finding. After Black Sunday, they made sure we were operating in pressure all the time and not volume.
Right.
And then into the 90s, was only one gated inlet on the rig. It was the front.
Yeah, then
Then
they
they added
added
it
more.
on the sides, so they made it easier to get water from
Yeah,
different
that was
spots.
that was good.
They put a discharge in the back. They did all, all
Right.
kinds of stuff.
Now another thing. Yeah, Ruff.
Well, I just wanted to. I figured we could start. I have a few questions. I figured we could start.
Let me just make one more observation, and then like we were talking about making it easier and not going to as much work and not being, I used to find that a lot of guys, if there was a hydrant in front of the building, they were jumping on that hydrant. And I used to think, how far till is another hydrant? How many feet is another hydrant? Let the guys grab the line and backstretch like we always do. I can't tell you how many times guys would say something to me like, why didn't you take the hydrant in front of the building? I'm like, well, I'm leaving it open for the truck, number one. And we backstretch. But guys were always deathly afraid that they wouldn't get a hydrant, so they would just park the rig right in front of. I mean, it's been my experience anyway, but probably not with you guys, going back.
Wasn't there something somewhere you never pass a serviceable hydrant? I mean,
Yes,
that
there
might
was,
have been
yes.
Right.
We would take the
So
hydrant.
that was
We would take the hydrant in front, but I would tell the guys, get off the street. I mean, if you have to go
Right,
up
you'd
the
have to
curb
pull on
and
the
get out of the way,
sidewalk,
right,
get out of the street.
And it would
right,
work.
but if you couldn't, you're gonna get another hydrant. Let them grab the lengths and drive to the next hydrant.
But it's just so funny. You always
Those
have a
good
hydrant.
chauffeurs, they knew where the hydrant were. Like
most of the guys
I
knew
was
that.
so lucky in '88. I had great Timmy Ostrander, J Pap. I mean, all the guys, Jimmy McGowan. They were great chauffeurs, and they knew every hydrant in our district. And to be honest with you, when we had the fire on Prospect Avenue that killed the 14 people there, he was going to take the hydrant right in front of the building, just past it. And he pulled up, he looked at it, and he said he didn't even look, and he worried about the truck, and he just kept going. And he had to go all the way down out to 187th Street to get water for that fire. But, that chauffeur realized, that hydrant might not be serviceable, and he would block the truck out, and he went. And he took that risk of passing that serviceable hydrant, but he knew the hydrants in the district. He knew that 187 was a street that we checked all the time. And so, I mean, that's what makes a chauffeur really, really good, being able to pass that serviceable hydrant, like Rick said, and knowing the next one's going to be there and it's going to be serviceable. I mean, that was the benefit of having great chauffeurs.
And knowing their area. I mean,
And knowing area. And I couldn't agree with Rick more. I mean, like, it made my job as an officer, knowing that guy, one, knew where he was going, knew where all the hydrants were, and by the addresses, knew the buildings. And I didn't really, every once in a while I'd spot a hydrant for the guy, but most times I let my chauffeurs, they would do whatever they wanted to do.
How do you guys feel about the new software that's available, like with an iPad, that you could do your size up before you get there, and you can almost like see what operational hydrants are ahead of time and all that?
iPads are for getting porn.
Okay.
I can't even. I mean, when you're racing through the street, a lot of times
I look at them.
you can't look at the iPad.
I mean, it's not going to be
I
a
can't.
chauffeur, but you know what I mean.
I mean,
Way
if it
too
came
much
up
going
on,
on.
if it came up on the scene, that's one thing. But
I think, my view of that, without knowing any better when I started, I had nothing to compare it to. You left quarters with a general idea what direction you were going.
Yep.
And you're on the back step. If you saw a column of smoke, you knew you were going to work. If you didn't see anything, you're a little less anxious. But if you did pull up to something, you had to figure out like what you got. you were forced. It was a matter of survival. You got to figure out what you got. You go back into have I been here before? Have I been to something similar? And it just develops the street smarts that guys, unfortunately, don't have. Everything is a book. Everything is a book. I think all of us would agree you'd rather a street smart guy on your back step than a guy that he's going to be chief of department someday. He's got all the theory, but he's got no sense. He's got no common sense.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not taking a shot. We're not taking a shot at you, Chief Richardson. Believe me.
Oh my God!
Whoa!
It sounded like a shot to me.
No, I don't like that. It's a little too familiar. No.
But he's right. An iPad ain't going to make a decision for you. The time for knowing a building, knowing the hydrants is way before that fire happened in that building.
I mean,
I
that
got
would
way too much
require
going on in that front seat.
that would require some good BI. Although Lou doesn't understand that.
I like BI. I like BI.
I liked it too. Me and you would have got along.
How many
This
times
is, before we move on from chauffeurs, this is how important the chauffeur's position is. And I was blessed at 289 and 138. There were a lot of guys that went across the floor and worked in the truck. And I never had to say anything. If we got a detail out of the house that was going to drive that tour in 289, a guy in 138 would step up that used to be a chauffeur. He says, Lou, I want to drive, because he knew the area. He knew. He knew.
I love it.
That's great.
And and what a blessing that was.
You don't have that. You don't have that luxury in a single house, though.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. You don't have that.
But that is a great.
That is good.
Well, there was a lot of places.
awesome
69
scenario.
engine was that way, where if the decal came in to drive, he wasn't driving. Someone from the company was driving that rig.
Right.
Whether and when I was in 69, I wasn't a chauffeur, but I could drive the rig.
Company trained or whatever. Yeah.
I was company trained, and I was driving long before I went to chauffeur school. And what am I going to tell the captain? No. And a member of 69 engine drove that rig. So and I agree with it. The area, you know where the hydrants are, the buildings.
All right.
Exactly.
I had a couple of quick questions here. I want to see what you guys think. We'll do like a quick like round robin. So it's funny, when I first came on the job, I would say probably one of my first jobs that I had in a taxpayer fire, like taxpayer or 3-story with a bodega on the first floor that was ripping. The engine chauffeur actually used the stang initially to knock down some fire if there was people above or any of that stuff while the guys were stretching the line. And I remember that vividly, one of my first jobs. And then as time went by, I could definitely tell that, if I was in the first due box, that very rarely happened. Like, it just seemed to be like a lost art where guys never, and it was gated now, right? Where, we actually put in 288, we actually put a gate on it, on this thing. I don't know if the new rigs come like that. I don't know.
They are. The new rigs are gated.
Yeah, so we put a gate on it so that it was closed, so that you weren't shooting it like as soon as you set, put the stang on, and that was something that we always practiced. I mean, we didn't get to use it too often. Maybe I don't know if Coobs used it.
And that was there so the chauffeur could charge it and then climb up.
Correct. Exactly.
That's why that gate was there.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, over time, it didn't seem like guys use that option anymore. Because you can knock
see
down
it less and less.
You see it less and less. Why do you think?
Well,
I
I think because going back to 235, we did that a lot, relatively speaking, where we were set up with the stang because arson was like crazy. So they would torch the first floor, and you'd pull up, and we had the luxury of working with 6 or 7 guys sometimes. So that was almost part of the assignment, like, before roll call or during roll call. Listen, if, blah, blah, we get a job and, who's going to be hopping up on the stang. You might stretch a booster line. They had the booster line reel off the back of the rig at the time. That was quick water if there was an issue with the 1 3/4, 2.5. So it is a little bit of a lost start, but I think because the kinds of fires have changed too.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I had a habit of, I had a little habit that I used to do. Once I knew that they had water, once I knew that they were on a hydrant water, I would stretch the booster line off the front, and I would charge it, and I would just leave it there. God forbid somebody showed at a window or you needed to knock down fire in a hurry, it was there. It was ready. I was standing there anyway. God forbid somebody comes to a window. At least I could, I could lob some water over his head or something, give him some time. But somebody had told that to me, and I just did that as a matter of practice all the time.
I like it.
Which, no, that's wonderful. A lot of times in the engine, you're standing around, especially if you're not first or second due. And that was a lesson learned. Like, we should think about having a line charge just in the front of the building.
Mm-hmm.
You never know.
Yeah, especially the chauffeur. When your duty's over, I mean, you have some time to look around and maybe stretch that line off the front. It's not much.
I think that's and Bob. We'll get to Bob and Tim just with that same thing. But I think that's the same thing. That could be a chief thing if the guys aren't being proactive with that. I know a few chiefs were doing that where they would have the guys have the line off the rig, maybe not always charged, but definitely off the rig, ready to go, even if they thought they might not use it, just to get in the process of stretching the line, right? Just to even go through the process of pulling the line off the rig. I mean, nobody wants to do all this work. You have to repack it and do all that bullshit all the time. But that's why we weren't doing it anymore, is because it was becoming an hassle. But I just wanted to throw that 2 cents in there. Bob, how was it when you came on with the
it was the same way as what Rick just said. We had, when I was in East New York, we had more vacants, and you could pull up and drop the booster through the stang and knock it down. I remember one job on Miller Avenue, right on a 4th of July night when we did that, but it was already into the frame next to it. So we stretched into the frame, but the chauffeur was able to knock down a lot of the building next door. But I think that's a lost art because of the type of fires, like Rick said. You don't see that kind of. When was the last time you pulled up at a frame roaring out of everything?
Right, because the calls are coming in much faster. I think
now everybody carries a firebox in their pocket now. The cell phone. It's if the cell phones made a big difference.
Right.
Roofy cell phone cases that look like fireboxes. Are you kidding me?
They're out there.
Oh man! All right.
It's got to say first, but none of them say first due at your old lady's box.
Oh, good point, bro. We'll have to give. What do we got to give them? 5%, 10%, Sarno?
Yeah, but who would answer the phone?
No. Throw it in the kitty.
What about you, Mr. Klett? They're doing it up in Harlem and the Bronx? Yeah.
As far as the stang, our buildings were a little different. When I first got on, we still had a lot of vacant buildings. We didn't have the frames where the stang really is a big benefit. I had that one picture I gave you about, we had the 4 frames and we used the stang in the Bronx there. It's one of the 2 times I used it. But I think some of our tactics also, actually the stang ain't working there because we had a little problem with water. But I had used the stang.
I'd say that's a stang job, yeah.
We did. We used the stang.
I was going to say it's a 2 and 2, but that's just me.
50 years ago, baby.
Yeah, 50 years ago.
Yeah, 2 and 2 in that building, 2 and 2 in that building, 2 and 2 in that. But when they took the 5th man away, I think that that may have led to some of that extra guy jumping up on top of the rig and using that stang. And I think, like anything else in life, the less you see it, the less you want to use it. And I think that like a lot of young firemen haven't been indoctrinated into using that stang, and it's just for an engine. It's a great tool, to knock down, especially if you get, like you said, the store on the first floor. If you got a store on the first floor, roaring out that store, 100% of the time I would put that stang right in the store. There's nobody that could tell me, oh, you got to leave the front of the building for the truck. I would tell the truck, give me 30 seconds. It's going to take me 30 seconds to put 500 gallons of water into that store, and then I'll move away. You know what I mean? There's no reason not to do it, but I just think, and I agree with Rick, it's a real lost art, and I think it's attached to the vacants when it was really common to being used. And as we got less vacants and less heavy fire on arrival based on cell phones, it just was one of those things that, the cellar pipe we don't use anymore, right? It used to be used all the time. It's just one of those things, as those fires kind of tend to go away, young guys weren't, hey, get the cellar pipe or put that stang in operation. Now when they get promoted, it's not even a thought in their brain to use it.
All right. Well, I have another question similar to, so talking about the cellar pipe. So basement jobs, they just changed not too long ago where, if you had a ripping basement and you could stick the line in the window, like to take the sting out of it before you went down. That's what they were basically calling for. What do you guys think about that as far as either going down interior stairs or if you could duck underneath the front, which is what they were also saying.
Oh,
Go ahead, Rick,
Timmy
you
has
first.
some. There you
Well,
go.
let Rick and Work will go. I mean, he's the senior man.
Again, I'm an old dog. It's hard to learn new tricks. I want to, I know what you can do, but that's not how I learned. That's not how we were taught. I think we're evolving to the day where it's going to be all outside operations. They're going to open up a line
that
into a
picture,
window, like we see in TV.
Which one are we looking for,
The
Jen?
basement job.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it kind of goes to what Rick is saying, going down the interior.
So first off, that's the beginning.
Right. There you go.
And
All right,
bad
so
boy here.
go ahead, Rick. I'm sorry.
Because back to fundamentals, you're trying to protect the interior stairs. So where is the stairway going from floor 1 to floor 2? It's over the basement stairs. So that's where you're going.
Unless it's in Queens, they talk about that out there, right? On the side door, side entrance, knock it down in the driveway, and then go down the side.
Well, that's relatively new. There was, I don't think there were ever PD tactical bulletins until the 90s, and there were a lot of opposing lines. The rear entrance, the front entrance, so that needed to be squared away. I don't remember if that was SOP, like hit it through a basement window. I think I remember them talking about it. But like everything else, it starts getting very top heavy with all these different things you can do. I defer to keep it simple. I know I'm going in the door and I'm going down the stairs.
Go ahead, Bobby.
That picture is an excellent picture because you can see that if you could stay low and get down there, you could put the fire out. I mean, it's going to be tough, but I mean, any of us who've done any time in an engine as a boss or as a nozzleman or backer man will know it's doable. You just got to get the parts moving right. You got to have the hose bow upstairs. You got to and then you got to go. You can't sit at the top of the stairs. You got to move. And there's a perfect example. You get to the bottom of the stairs, the fire's all above you. So.
That is a perfect example of that right there.
It is. It really is. I mean, you're down low. You'll be all right. You just got to.
It's still very unpleasant, but you can get it done.
It's not easy.
I don't think
I
don't think we signed up, for comfort.
There's a pucker factor involved in that.
Oh
definitely.
yeah.
But we've all done it. You've all done it before.
Just this again. I don't want to say I've been a boss fighter my whole career. I don't think so. But there were a lot of chief officers that had less time than me, and they were big on the new flavor of the month. So there was one chief in particular who I respected, and the hoods had just come out. And he wanted to know where my hood is. And I'm like, I don't wear a hood. And, we went into this whole thing. All right. So not hours later, this is on a night tour for night drill. 5 o'clock in the morning, we get a basement. And we go down. Now, there was less coordination with engine lines at the time. So we do what we're supposed to do. We go in the front door, through the kitchen, we find the stairs, we start going in the basement. And now we had a turn to go to the back. So my nozzle and backup man were compliant with wearing hoods. And I felt like things started to go wrong. I'm getting burned behind me when the fire's in front of me. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Let's get back to the stairs. So I felt the heat because I didn't have the hood on. And what had happened, another engine opened up an opposing line. It was pushing everything towards us. Not that they were trying to do anything wrong. It's just kind of what happened. But I made the point with the chief the next day. I said, this is kind of why, I'm not a big advocate of the hood. I'd rather take a little burn and know what's going on than be totally isolated like my nozzle and backup man were. And that's where the tradition kicks in. A fireman, you're gonna get burned like you can't get burned anymore. Oh God!
I used to leave it around my neck. I used to leave it around my neck, and I used to put the flaps down.
Same thing. Flaps down, collar up.
That's it. and you could feel a little bit more.
Yeah, that's enough. You're still gonna feel it. You're still gonna feel it if it gets too nasty. This was what I brought up like the first time where I was taught how like don't wear one glove in the engine because you always want to be feeling over your head, for the heat.
Go ahead, Tim.
Take the burn.
I'm busy drinking.
Good job.
Talk about basement jobs like this.
Hey, I'm learning. Listen, I'm listening to these two salty dogs, man. I'm good, man. Well, I'll start my answer with saying this. I would have cut, Captain Winky off to work with either two of these guys. To be a fireman under these two guys, it would have been like, I love what they're saying. Like Rick, the difference, and I'm a 90s guy in New York, but I've been in this fire service for a long time. And I wish I could have worked with a guy, with the same mindset, because I think that a lot of the decisions we make now on the fire ground are more based on our safety than the people we're sworn to protect. You know what I mean? Like how safe it is for us, who cares about the people upstairs? And so like those pictures of the basement job were a fire that I actually had. And, we had to make a decision and no one would have faulted me for saying, hey, we're not going to go down these stairs. But, we were told there were people on the second floor. There was no other way into that cellar. We had to make a decision. We're an engine company. You know what? This is our job. This is what we get paid to do. If you don't want to do it, I'll bring somebody else up in the nozzle. And I told the nozzle man, I'll do it myself. But we have to get down these stairs. And not because the fire was down there, because there were people above. And that's the thing people don't understand. It's not always about the fire itself. It's about what the fire is doing for people within that building. Do you know what I mean? If there was nobody in the building, if they said, no, everybody's out, even that, that's our job to make. We make that call. Nobody else makes that call. I don't care what anybody else says. Everybody's out. I've been to lots of fires where they said everybody was out and we found people. But, our decisions have to be made about, who we're sworn to protect. And if it means we have to go down those stairs, there's a calculated way we can do that. We're an engine company. We got water. We should be able to get down those stairs. You plan it at the top of the stairs. You make your decisions accordingly. You set up. And the one thing I always say about cellar fires is that all I'm concerned about is getting down the stairs. That's all I want to do is get down the stairs. And once I'm down the stairs, everything's going to get better. Because like Rick, tell me if I'm wrong. Cellar fires, they're really bad. They get better, and then they get bad again. And then they start to get better because we're getting water on a fire.
Right.
Am I right?
With all the years I spent in Brooklyn with frame and brownstone and tenement and all of that, I can't believe how many times I got my ass kicked in Corona, like in a small basement. There's nowhere for the heat to go. You're in a confined space. You got people all over the place. It's tough to maneuver. So you're sitting there a lot longer in a basement than you would on a third floor or a flat somewhere, and just moving right in and putting it out and go home.
And we say about the trucks, on the floor above, that's where they earn their money, right?
Yep.
Cellar fires.
That's
where we earn our money, man. That's what we get paid to do. We got to get down and put them out, and
especially the ones that you go down in the Bilko doors. Ooh.
Well, I think Bobby and Tim, being where you were for as long as you were, and with the advent of CFR and EMS runs, how many basements did you go into for a medical? And you said, "Oh my God,
I have a job in here."
Oh my God.
You know how many times I said
oh
that
my
in
God.
New York? Holy shit. I do want to say a little asterisk to that, because we're basing all these procedures on the fact that we're going to have 50 guys minimally at this job, right? So you show up in bump hell, Putatucky with two guys, you got to put a bow in it. You got to do this. You got to do that. I'm not saying it can't be done.
Game.
It's a different ball game. So you have to do what's wherever you are. What works with your companies and your guys and your department, obviously, we're killing it with manpower, where we are.
But I always defend that a little bit, and I hate to cut you off, is because everybody goes, you guys have the manpower. And you know what? I always say we do. We stretch hose with 8 guys, right? Am I wrong? Nowadays, in Rick's day, no, every engine got their line. But nowadays, we team up companies and we stretch hose with 8 guys, but we still push it in with 2.
Yep.
Yeah,
like everybody else.
Nozzle and a backup guy.
Nozzle and backup guy. That's it. Once that line is stretched, we as a New York City Fire Department, still push that line in with 2 firefighters. And I'm not saying that, we should put that on other people. I'm just saying it's doable with 2 guys to push a line in. We stretch it with 8, 100%, but we're stretching to the 6th floor, the 3rd floor, the 4th floor. But when it's time, to push that line in, it's an officer and 2 firemen, right? Is there another guy? Tell me if I'm wrong. I mean,
but I mean, if you're going down the stairs and then you got to turn to the fire, you got to come into the house, turn down to the front of the house, and then
go back to the rear.
You're not doing that with 2 guys.
It's all about preparing for that.
No, I'm not.
You've got to understand, you've got to understand at the top of stairs, especially if there's a door there. You're in it to win because you can control.
No, I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm
like
just
that
saying
fire,
it's
the pictures that you showed. When I opened the door, fire had possession of the stairs. We kept the door, and I told the guys, you got to put a length past the doorway. It took 1 guy to put a length past the doorway. So all we had to do was get down. Remember, all you got to do is down and make the turn. Once you make the turn, and a turn at the bottom of the stairs costs 5 feet of hose. So once you make that turn, you are putting water into the depth of that cellar. So it's not, people want to get in, you got to make this turn, this turn. If you put 20 feet past that stairway, you've got 12 for the stair, and you got another 8 to make the turn. And then you could sit there and pour water through that cellar.
That's if they didn't put like half a dozen cubicles in the basement.
But you're still getting water.
I wanted to say this too. But Dom in 290, he used to run this drill for the basement. He used to run 3 lengths off the booster, let's say, and he had a shut off that, and he would shut the line there, charge the line, shut it, and then disconnect it. So you had 3 lengths that were charged, but you could take it off. You could take it off, and he would practice with the guys putting bows in the line at the stairs and practice like the guys going down on their ass, not opening
the
up.
ice rescue device, that ice rescue, we could fill the line with air.
Oh yeah, that's a good.
We did the same thing with the ice rescue. I would fill the line off a Scott cylinder. That way, if we had a run, we could just take off.
You can drop it and go.
So
that was a great.
Wait, Tim, you forgot the 3rd guy. You forgot the rescue of the squad guys trying to steal your nozzle. How about that guy?
What about
they're giving reports to the newscaster.
Good for you. Good for you.
Good for you, Tim.
We got a guy.
Someone's got to fight back.
I hear you.
We got a guy named Gary Stadler in the chat who's got a fire in his pants for the question, which is Pete. Tell the masters about Sam Auto Body Shop in Ronkonkoma. We use stangs and hose line in the street because it was fully involved. He'd like your opinion on using stangs and hose lines in the street
to knock it down. That was
I don't know.
I remember seeing that in the volley, on the Firewire or whatever, Long Island.
The building was fully involved. Simple answer.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
That's what the guy's all excited about.
Oh, he's
fully
been
involved. Fact,
it's
been,
come on, give me a break.
There's a lot.
I didn't want to go to that
fire.
fire.
Of excitement. There's a lot of excitement.
Me either. It was a waste of my time.
Yeah, I don't even want to show up there. If the chief said you could take up, Lou, I'll be out of there so fast you wouldn't even know what the hell happened.
But if the guy's saying about the decision to do that, yeah, it's 100% the right decision. It's a very low life hazard building that's fully involved with unknown. It's an auto body shop. Stangs, and I might not even put a hand lines. I might put a freaking multiverse.
The guy saying that the body shop was 99 years old too. It's a 100-year-old building.
I remember reading about that.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
That's a brand new parking lot.
Yeah. Maybe 2 levels too.
Did the engine knock over the officer's garbage cans while he was over there?
Oh, come on.
I got one more question for you guys. I got one more.
Yeah, that hurt me with that.
So what do you guys think about, and I know that this has changed. I think it's changed for something, but again, I don't know all the regs anymore. 1 3/4. So you got 3-story wood frame. You got a bodega on the first floor. Used to be 1 3/4, right? No problem. Then they changed any type of commercial, quote unquote commercial, was 2.5. And I know guys that got ripped if the chief showed up to that building and didn't have a 2.5 stretched into that store, fire in the store. What do you guys think about that? Rick, go ahead first.
Yeah, I mean, 235's bed was set up with 1 3/4 inch, which was relatively new, with the donut, which was relatively new. Wasn't a horseshoe, it was a donut. And 2.5 was the second bed, where I think now 1 3/4 inch, that's for everybody. But there's a problem with 2.5. It's like moving a pipe, and it's impossible, basically. And all of the times that it became a choice of volume of fire or maneuverability, I went for the maneuverability. If there was that much fire, it's very unlikely anybody surviving anyway. So I'd rather be able to move as quick as I can, rather than use the 2.5 and put out a lot of fire, but people haven't survived anyway.
Bob, what do you think?
Well, it's for the fires I've had. The 2.5. We used to take it to the store, but if you had to go above the the second or third floor above, the 1 3/4 inch was much better. You could get up and move it around and knock a lot of fire down with the maneuverability. I would go with the 2.5 on the first floor. I mean, especially if it was going really good. But going above 2.5, the 1.5 was 1 3/4 inch was much better.
Absolutely. Tim, what do you got?
So, when we rewrote the engine manuals, this was a really big discussion.
Oh,
And,
all right, good.
you know,
Yeah, I like this.
It really was about the 1 3/4 in the store, and I there was nothing that was ever written in the manuals for the 1 3/4 in the commercial occupancy. 2.5 was always for the 2.5 for the commercial. The 2.5 was always for the commercial building, and somewhere along the line, and I hate to say it, I think Fire Tech did it.
Kind of segued into that,
It
right?
kind of bastardized into the store fire in the first floor. And I hate to say, I truly agree with Rick. I'm going for the maneuverability in the store. And when we had the discussions about this, there was a chief was like, wouldn't you want the punch? I'm like, well, wait a minute. If that was an apartment on the first floor full of mattresses and couches and TVs, I could take the 1 3/4. But now I have a store that's full of potato chips. And I got to take the 2.5. I mean, like, we have to have some, and so to me, and I always told the chiefs up in the 7th Division, and Solko was one of my chiefs. I said, listen, if I get a store fire, there's going to be an 1 3/4 there. And he goes, no, it's not. I go, 100%. I said, I worked with a guy in 69 Engine, Killian. If you stretch a 2.5 for a store fire in the first floor in Harlem, we did a lot of them. You'd never get the nozzle again. It was his call. And I'm agreeing with Rick on this one. I'm looking for that maneuverability. I want to get to the back of the store. I want to get it, and remember, we're putting 180 gallons of water a minute into a 15 by 25 foot space. It's going to beat the shit out of it.
Did they end up changing that? Is that changed? Is that change? I mean, I know you said
in the new manuals, it is now an option. You can take an 1 3/4 to a store fire in the first floor of a building. Yes.
I remember hearing that. I don't know if we talked about that on the podcast.
We did talk about it. Yes, that is a change. We discussed it a long, long time. We didn't know if it would get through staff. Yeah, and it did. Some of the things didn't get through, but that did. So you still have the option. The discussion about if it's a furniture store, I go, well, then, you're an engine officer. You should be able to make that decision.
Well, that's, again, it's
coming. You're basing on the fire load and not the occupancy. So that was how we came about that. But like I said, again, Rick, 100%, I agree. I'm looking for that maneuverability in that store fire in the first floor, and I get as quick as a punch as I would with the 2.5. With that insurance.
And the guys don't take a beating. I mean, I've seen the guys take a freaking, unless you're not.
Well, and here's the thing is, if I knock down that first floor and I get extension, I can still take that line above and let that second if they're removed, finish off that first floor and get that line upstairs. I don't have to put in 1 3/4 on the head of that nozzle, take it upstairs. So option-wise, once I get that fire knocked down, I have a lot of options. Still, with the 2.5, it kind of eliminates the options for me. I can't bring it anywhere. It's it's a very versatile line.
That's it. Yeah.
But that's it. So like I said, I tend to agree with getting in there and having that ability and getting that fire knocked down.
That's all. Talking about taking the nozzle away. So you three guys were both lieutenants in busy companies. How long would a probie have to work, and what would you have to see before you would give the probie the nozzle?
I guess I'll start. I would leave it up to the guys I'm working with that tour. They were wonderful with bringing new guys along, and they weren't selfish. So it was very different from when I started. That on the back step, the senior man pretty much always took the nozzle. You have to fight for it. But in 289, I held back with assignments. There might have been assignments on paper, but the guys were very good with bringing people along. If they, except one one firefighter, and we had a second floor vacant, and we had a new guy. Oh, Joe Minogue, which you know, all right?
Yeah.
One of Joe's first jobs. He had backup, and I'm at the second floor, and they're down on the first floor, and I yelled to my guy, give Joe the nozzle. No. So, you had to put up with that once in a while. But, you don't know until you do it. So it's hard to judge a guy. And thank God there were enough jobs that, they wouldn't have to wait long for a turn. So I didn't have any criteria. If you're a new guy, you got to do this before you get the nozzle.
How about you, Lieutenant Bob?
It was the same thing. In 283, the guys were really good. I had one young guy, Timmy Maw, who we gave the nozzle right away. The first 6 months he worked, the guy was killing it. His helmet looked like he had 20 years on the job. And it was like he was 6 months. So we would do it the same way. The guys would figure it out, and it always worked. Guys were good.
Lieutenant Klett?
So I'm a little bit different. The first night the probie walked in the firehouse, he had the nozzle. Very first night.
Really?
And it's funny because what Rick said is one of the reasons why I did that. So for me was I would give the probie the nozzle, and one of the big reasons was I wanted to train him. I can talk a 2-year-old through an apartment. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't, but I needed him to get his experience. But the other thing was if we turned a corner and I had a really, really good fire, that the probie wasn't ready for, and I looked at the probie and said, give Rick the nozzle. You know what that probie was going to do? Give Rick the nozzle. If we turned the corner without 2 winds on, Rick had the nozzle, you know where I'm going. And I said, hey, Rick, give the probie
giving up the nozzle.
He's gonna say, why?
Screw that shit.
Exactly. For me, it was easier to take the nozzle away and give it to the senior guy if I felt we had a fire that he couldn't handle. That's why I gave him the nozzle. But, for me, taking it away from the senior man to give it to a senior, I always got, come on, Lou, I haven't had a job in 3 weeks. So, okay, take it. So it was easier for me to take it from the junior guy to give it to the likes of Rick and say, hey, put this out for me, bro. And then I would just ride the line in and let him put it out. So that's how I handle that.
I would imagine for all of you guys, this just goes out to everyone. It's a good way to gauge who the person is, the probie. If you're giving them the nozzle the first time, you can see if they're, what their skills level is, where their brain is at, what they're thinking. You can guide them, but also you can test them a little bit. You can see if they're a coward. You can see, you want
to watch their head spin around? Tell them the first night in the fire, so you got the nozzle. And it doesn't mean they're going to have the nozzle at the fire. Lou, one of the things you said earlier is what people don't realize is on a phone alarm years and years ago, those companies would stretch to the front door, whether there was smoke showing or not.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So if I put a probie on the nozzle and we just stretched dry, at least he stretched.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
We talked about this, Rick. Remember?
Yeah, and I forgot, early on.
14th Division was doing that too.
There was a lot of companies doing that. You stretched on a phone alarm. You stretched.
But one of the biggest tactical differences to our disadvantage right now, I believe, was you used to stretch a dry line as far as you could.
Yep.
Before you got water. Now you got to charge it at the IDLH or whatever the acronym is. All right, so you're at the front door on the stoop, charge the line. Oh my God, what a waste of time that is. I pretty much ignored it as much as I could because I want to get as far as I can.
Well,
with
in
an
busier
easy line
places,
to
it's not
stretch.
happening. It's not happening like that. In slower places, maybe, but not in like up in the Bronx and Harlem. That didn't happen either.
You got the water.
They preferred stretching the dry line as far as they could. Is that what you're saying, Tim?
100%.
Yeah.
I would wait and even to build off of that, even when we got water, where now as soon as they get water, they want to flow water. When I get water, and I would tell guys, you don't open that line till I tell you to, and I would wait as long as I could before I open that line, because once I open that line,
get it going.
I want a good.
Times I told the guy, "Oh, take it easy, don't hit that yet."
Hold on.
I want the living room too.
Yeah, let it grow. Let it grow.
Yeah, and if the truck guys
like two cabinets going in,
it wasn't a fire. Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of things, a lot of guys don't realize, as much as operating the line, just like we're talking about now, the stretch is like a lost art. The stretch is an art itself. It's an art itself. So I remember on my first stretch, I worked with the senior guy as we were taking our lengths off the rig. He started talking to me about something that was like arbitrary, like sports or something, like literally talking to me as we're stretching. And later on, I asked him about it. He says, because you should be able to carry on a conversation and be calm. No yelling, no screaming, no running. Carry on a conversation and do your job and stretch the line proficiently. So what kind of tips can you guys give about the stretch itself? Start with Lieutenant Bruno.
Again, as a fireman, as an officer, I was blessed. There were places that, you're glad it's only for the tour. But just as the chauffeur is gold in a good company, the more senior guy, the nozzle man, he took control of the stretch. He would do his thing. He would help out the backup, make sure it was done right. You shouldn't. Getting excited and nervous and the adrenaline going helps nothing. So the more laid back you can be, just making sure everything is being done. I never had to go back and correct something that I could remember. It was always done right from the get-go. And it's a blessing. I appreciated it. But in terms of like a tip for stretching, I always used to teach guys, no matter what position you have, there should never be a lull in the thought process. All right. So if you're the nozzle guy and you're pulling off your folds and you're waiting for the backup, you should still be thinking about things. All right. Not just waiting for the backup to do his thing. Well, what if he fucks up? What if he takes off too many lengths? What if he doesn't take off enough? Every guy, when there's that downtime moment on the line, should always be thinking, what if this goes wrong? What am I going to do? What if we don't get water? So that's probably the best tip. Don't go to sleep, until the fire goes out. All right. You should always be thinking of something, even if it doesn't have to do with your job in particular that you're doing that moment. Always be thinking of something.
Beautiful.
Pete, there's a picture there of a guy stretching off the back of a rig.
You got it, boss. Coming up.
Bring it up.
Oh yeah, here it is.
I want to bring up just be calm. Get off the rig, know where you're going, know what kind of building it is, and you don't see the nozzle man running ahead and pulling it out of the X guy's hands. You have three guys there getting their folds and getting ready to go. That's the best.
290.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It's 283.
Where else would
that's 283 stretching off 290, by the way.
You should. It could be 230.
It looks like the first line coming off too.
It could be 230.
It actually is. It was a multiple. They were around the corner, so
okay.
The idea is. Go ahead, Pete.
Someone just to your point, Bobby, is in the chat. Someone saying, "Does a garbage man turn down the street and yell, 'Holy shit, we got trash here'?" Right? I mean, it's kind of a good point, isn't it?
It's just you
got
done
it before.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's
trash ain't gonna kill you. Fire may kill you.
There you go.
That's a bad analogy.
Unless there's acid in the trash.
All right. I'm
But the
just
whole
saying.
thing is,
I agree with you.
Stay calm. Know what kind of a building you're going into, and make sure you have enough hose. And
I'm smart.
when you're
Not like
when you're
everybody
in a certain,
says.
when you're in a certain neighborhood, you know what kind of buildings you'll have, and you know kind of how much hose you're going to need and stuff. And like these guys are demonstrating, they're just nice and calm and just get off the rig and go.
Now, how about all this good stuff right
Wait,
here?
let's get to Lieutenant Klett first. And his
Timmy's got some good pictures. Timmy's got some good pictures here.
You getting me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Look, like one thing I always say is like, if you look at truck companies and when you look at truck companies and when other companies look at them, they say, it's based on their search and the way they overhaul the room. For an engine, it's the way we stretch hose. And me and Bobby talked the other day, and we said, like, when a guy that worked in a truck comes to the engine, it's very hard for him to become a good engine boss because he doesn't understand. Like, he thinks it's on off, and the engine is the stretch. It's like signing your name to a check. The signature of a good engine is the way they stretch hose. Like 283, 290, all these from 289, 69, 88, all these guys, their signature was the way they stretched hose. And, I didn't have to tell them, what they needed to do. They knew how to stretch hose. And that's a big deal. It's a big deal when it translates into how the fire works out, because listen, anybody can open and close a nozzle, but if you can't get the nozzle where it needs to be, then the engine's no good at all. So like, I totally agree with Rick. Like, again, like every engine should be self-sufficient. They should know how to stretch. They should know how to get that nozzle into a position to operate. And even for companies like that operate with pre-connected hose lines, when they say, well, there's no estimate. Well, there is. There's always an estimate. Like in New York City, we don't estimate the stretch from the doorway in. We estimate the entire stretch from the back step to the fire. Even with a pre-connected hose line, in a place outside New York City, they've got to decide how much hose they need in the building. And they've got to get that hose to the front door of that building so they have enough hose to make that advance through the building. So for me, the stretch, that's the engine. Right there, hands down, that would make the ability to stretch hose, not the ability to operate. I can talk a 2-year-old through a fully involved apartment. If they can't get that nozzle there, then that company's no good.
I have to say this too, because we just had Chief Mooney on and we were talking about 290 and we were saying how, Coombs asked him, he's like, what about, how was it like being the captain there? And what was the aura and, all the bullshit. And he said they drilled all the time and they wanted to go to fires. That's it. Right. So you don't get to be a good stretch company by just stretching when you go to fires. Right. Those guys, how many times I left line in the street because a box came in for fire? We disconnected the thing, left the line there, grabbed the nozzle, took off, and went, and then came back and got the line. You know how many times I did that? Like if we were going into a vacant to practice stretching, that's the only way you get better if you're an engine is stretching. That's
so I went third due one night with Chief Salka. You had him on the show. So we were third due. So we pulled up, and the first line was charged and operating. It wasn't much of a fire. So I tell the guy, start a line to the front door. They bring a line to stand at the front door. Salka comes up to me and he says, what's that? I go, second line, Chief. He goes, I didn't call for that. I go, you don't have to. He goes, well, I go, Chief, wait a minute. First of all, we don't go to enough fires as it is. Any opportunity I get to stretch hose in a real scenario, I said, I'm going to do it. He goes, well, just let me know. I go, well, come on. According to our procedures, the third due stretches the second line. You should know that. I mean, I was very good. I'm very, very good friends with Chief Salka. So we had this conversation, and I told him, if this happens again tonight, I'm stretching
the same exact thing. That's it.
Doing the same thing, stretching the front door. And if shit goes bad, how happy are you going to be that I have that line there? You know what I mean?
How many times? You know how many times you would go in, let's say third due at a job, and the chief would turn around and say, start a line, and I would say, Chief, we have it. It's right here. Where do you want it? We had it ready to go. We didn't have to be asked to start another line. It was ready to go, and that's the sign of guys that know what they were doing.
Well, again, that's how those companies get their reputation. Is that they're always you're not getting good at that by just doing it the occasional time that you have your job.
And here's the thing: if you want a tidbit for everybody out there, whether you're in New York City or anywhere else, if you're ready to go to work, guess what? You're gonna go to work. If you walk up to the chief and you tell him, and I did it all the time, my nozzlemen, when I was working an 88 engine, they knew as soon as we got to a scene, removed from the first, second, third due, I would tell my nozzlemen, you find where you can get me a line.
Find a rig, right?
And they would tell me 42 engine. So I'd walk right up to the chief. I go, Chief, I'm fourth due, fifth due. If you need a line, I can get one off a 42 engine. I had the bottle right in my hand. And you know what would happen 90% of the time? Timmy, do me a favor, start me a line to the exposure. If you're ready to go to work, you're going to go to work. So, not just New York City, but anywhere. If you're prepared, if you're trained, if you're ready, you're going to get put to work. Be that engine company that people are looking around for. Be that company that when you show up, the chief is looking for you. If you're that guy, guess what? You know the story with Soka at that second alarm up on Moore, right? You've heard the story. I said, Chief, I'm second on a second. There were 3 engines ahead of me. He turned around and goes, Timmy, come here. He goes, can you put this fire out? I said, yeah. He goes, but 90's ahead of me. He says, I don't fucking care. And he put me to work because he knew I was ready to go to work. And that's a sign. 290, 289, 283. Those companies, 69, 88, those companies, they show up. Guess what they're doing? They're ready to go to work. And if you're that guy, and that's just not a one-day event. Like you guys said about training and leaving hose in the street. You know how many times I've left hose in a vacant building on Bathgate Avenue? Break it off. Let's go. I left the hose in and nozzle in the building, came back, got it later on. But if you're training and ready to go to work and they know it, guess what? And probably even in the old days, even with all those busy companies, you showed up as one of those busy companies in the old days and they knew you were out there, you were going to work. Be that company. That's the guy you want to be.
I think the 14th for a while, if I remember, they were saying no matter what run you had, whether it was gas or whatever it was, they wanted you to stretch a line, the first 2 engines to stretch the first line.
So there was in the late 2000s, it came down from headquarters as a training exercise that the first new engine on first new phone alarms for gas leaks would stretch to the front door.
Oh, that was citywide.
That was citywide. That came down, and then nobody did it because it was like, for a gas leak, I was for it and I was against it. If it was a first new phone alarm for a fire, yeah, 100%. But a gas leak, come on, bro. We're pushing a little bit.
Ruff, we got the luxury. Well, I don't know if it's a luxury, but seeing a whole bunch of different companies throughout the whole borough, and you go to places like 289, you're like, now that's a nice stretch. You go to other places, you'd be like, what the fuck just happened here? It looks like
everywhere.
Oh my God! You're like, holy Christ, man!
There's no doubt about that. There's no
hands up. So that's another thing. It's funny is if you don't think other companies are looking at your stretch, you're out of your mind.
Yep.
You're out of your mind. They're like, oh, look at 88 stretch 4 extra links for the top floor. First floor fire. And, Watt Street was a 13th link stretch for a first floor fire. I mean, other companies are looking at your stretch. Don't ever think that they're not.
Have some pride, bro. Have some pride. Let's go over some of those pictures. Let's go over some of those pictures, Pete. That
we're talking about stretches, right? So we've got a lot with well stretches here.
So this is what not to do.
This is a don't do. So this is what you call it.
So if you don't mind me jump in. So when you stretch, so first show a picture of a well hole. Show the well hole picture.
The open hole, yeah.
There it is. So if for anybody that doesn't know, the well hole is the space between the banisters that you can look down. And the best way I can describe it is in the movies, if you ever see the gunfight when they're running up and down the stairs and they're shooting each other through that hole, that's a well hole. And it's a viable way for engine companies to use. Now, I know Brooklyn has a different mindset on well holes than the Bronx does. I used to get in arguments with guys from Brooklyn about using the well hole. In the Bronx and Harlem, we used it all the time. Instead of 5 links to get to the top floor, we could use 1 link. But if you go back to that other picture, if you need a second line up that well hole, So the first line can go up the well hole any way you want. You can take the nozzle, you can take the roll up. It doesn't matter. You go straight up the well hole. But the second line that goes up at every landing or half landing, you've got to stop and you've got to make sure that the two lines are moving independently up the well. If you don't do that, it'll candy cane like this in the picture, and then you don't have any ability to move the lines independently of each other. They kind of wrap around each other, and it puts really both lines out of service. So as you move up the stairs with the second line, it's got to be moved around so it doesn't candy cane around it. Like he's doing there. You can see him, he's moving it around so they move up independently. That's that well hole stretch.
There you go.
Nice. And then here is a wraparound stretch.
Run an elevator.
So, I mean, this is a New York City thing where the stairway, it's kind of a core construction where the elevator and the stairways are built in a core within the building, and the stairway wraps around the elevator. And it just takes a lot of guys to take care of that. It's going to take two companies. You've got to, and I like what Rick said earlier. I think that as we progress through our training in especially in New York City, is he said one thing, and I liked it. The nozzle man kind of controls the stretch, and he really, really does. The control man controls the amount of hose that comes off the rig, and he's going to keep pulling hose off that rig until somebody tells him to stop. The nozzle man's going to be the guy that says, "Hey, drop your links here, drop your links here, or don't drop your links here." And in this elevator stretch, he's got to make sure that backup guy doesn't drop his links too soon and make it difficult for everybody else. So I really liked what Rick said earlier about that nozzle man being one of those key guys in that stretch where he controls where those, those roll-ups are dropped, that first horseshoe is dropped and then the second horseshoe is dropped. I think it's really important. And Rick, right? I mean, like you did say that earlier.
That was so long ago. Who knows? You don't expect.
It was only 10 minutes ago, bro. It was 10 minutes.
Wait, in old guy time, it's about 10 hours ago.
He already took 2 naps. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's in my senior moment.
Hey, listen, we got to go. Little House on the Prairie's coming on soon, okay?
So there's a couple of interesting photos here, guys. One was the rope stretch so that we could avoid stuff like this.
Yeah, that's a no-no.
That's a no-no.
So that's coming up the outside. Show the Pete before the picture before that, Pete.
Mamma mia.
Anybody else? Rick? Bobby, you want to take this?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes in a multiple, it's a necessary evil. Maybe there wasn't enough water being charged into the line. I don't know. But you can't, I think, if I remember correctly, pretty much 2 lines is it for the interior stairs. So now you're going up the fire escape, you're going up the building.
How the hell they get the bottle out that window?
I think that particular picture, there just wasn't enough water in the line.
That's it.
I can't remember.
There's the rope.
There's the
That's a knot.
That's the knot to tie.
That's a knot to tie, and here is the
finish.
So
what not to do?
So here's the thing: is like engines got to remember that, like everybody wants to go to that front door, and they got to remember there's other ways we can stretch hose, even in smaller places. If you're going to the second floor and the stairway, you don't need to stretch an aerial or portable. You can drop a hook out the window and hook the nozzle on and pull that line up. But as an engine company, and I always say, engine work is the purest thing we do in the fire service. It really hasn't changed. It's putting water in a hand line and someone opening a nozzle. Maybe the tools have changed, but it really is the purest thing we do. And we should, at this point in the firefighting service, we should have it right. And we really don't. And some of these things like the rope stretch and the well hole stretch are things that have gone by the wayside. And for engine officers, I would tell them, never be without options. If you walk up and tell the chief, I can get you a line to the top floor, he doesn't want to know how. He just wants to know there's going to be a line to the top floor. He doesn't want you to tell him, well, this is what I'm going to do. He just wants to, Timmy, can you get me a line to the top floor? Yeah, chief, I can do that. And that's all he wants to know. It's so like the rope stretch, the fire escape stretch, the well hole stretch, all these options that we have to go vertical with our line are a big deal when it comes to walking up to a command post and saying, hey, I can do that. And, you know, in Rick's day and even Bobby's day, you know, up the fire escape was a very common thing. It happened all the time. And now, for some reason, it's been an evolution that's been lost. You know, very rare do you see lines going up the fire escape. I had a fire out in Wallace Avenue. We were third due, and it was one of those big H's off on Wallace and Lydic Avenue, a big 6-story. It was true cocklaw fire. So I told 88, I said, listen, give him a hand with the first line. So 3 engines, first line, 15 links. 15 links the first line. So I told him, I said, listen, but don't get involved in the building. Just help him with the courtyard because we have the second line. So I'm looking around. I go, there's no way that I'm going to take a line up the stairway. So I'm looking. I said, I'm going up the front fire escape. So by the time that they finish, I'm already on the fire escape at the bottom. I said, hey, stretch a line here. We go up the front fire escape, and we get in the top floor window, and we have water almost the same time as the first line. And really, we made the difference in this fire. I mean, we had 2 lines on the top floor. So a chief says to me, he goes, look at that. He goes, I haven't seen that in a while. He goes, a line going up the fire escape. He goes, what's that? Like the 3rd or 4th line? I go, chief, that's the second line. He goes, no, it isn't. I go, yeah, chief, it's the second line. He goes, how do you know? I go, it's my line. And all I'm going to say is I'm not doing this. I'm not patting I'm just saying as an engine officer, you should never be out of options. You know, if you want to get your company work, there's a way to get your company put to work. Never be out of options to get your nozzle.
How many lengths did you get to reduce that to from a 15-length stretch to a what?
6.
Going up 6.
6 lengths.
Wow.
11 lengths or 9 lengths less. Yeah.
Do we have any pictures of a hose roller?
A hose roller.
Hose roller.
Oh,
I know.
Christ.
How about a Cooper hose jacket?
Cooper hose jacket, yeah.
Rick, you guys used to have that. I don't know if Tim or Bobby probably had it. You guys had that half
Tire.
Oh, the
yeah, a lot
steel
of
wheel,
places.
the
rim,
steel wheel,
the
the rim. Yeah,
They called it
remember
the
that.
5th man. It was the 5th man.
yeah.
That was another. I don't know who came up with that, but a lot of rigs had that after
A lot
a
of
while.
rigs had it.
That was a good. Little
Well, I mean, the first time I saw it, firefighter Randy Supak, his brother was in 283. He had come, up with that idea about like, let's cut a wheel. And because, Corona's very narrow streets, congested, double park cars.
Rick, explain what it is exactly for
It's a steel. All right, so
it's a rim from a car,
not,
right?
But it's not like a modern aluminum mag kind of wheel. It's an old steel wheel, solid steel wheel that the tire is wrapped around, and you cut out 25% of it, so that space then you just throw it down. If you're stretching a line around a car and a car tire, you just lay it on the ground on that car tire that you're stretching around, and now it's like a pulley. You've given the hose a very smooth avenue of not getting
down the friction from the rubber to the.
It doesn't get it won't bind under a tire.
It won't go under the tire,
right?
Yeah,
because it's dry.
Which with hose stretching, I had a pet peeve with trucks. So those truck people, you could take offense. All right. They care nothing about the engine stretching line, basically. All right. Unless they came out of an engine. The truck guys, they could care less. And I used to have a big problem, especially in MDs, where there's an entrance door and a vestibule where they would be in before us and they chock the door. And how many times I can't tell you that
Push
the
door
chock
come out.
the chock would fall out. You hang all these contraptions they had, like they were not good for my purposes. All right, I'm worried about the line getting stuck under the door. So I took
a lot of pride in chocking doors.
I did too. And I had what I don't do a truck chock. I had an engine chock, and I would show all of my guys I always had pockets full. I had no problem with I'm going to be the guy to chuck the door. And the key was not so much if I'm moving the line away from the direction of the door opening, is if I'm going with the line in the direction of the door open, I wanted the door pushed back as much as would go. There's no chalk in the middle of the door because the line could still get, stuck under there. So the door gets pushed back, the chalk goes right at the very edge, and now we're good to go.
I agree.
So, Ed, you got that picture of the tools?
Yeah, I was just about to pull that up, man. Thank you.
So, it's funny, Rick, you say that as an engine officer, like chocks to me. So if you look in that picture,
I like it.
If you look at the chocks by the nozzle, those two right there, those are engine. So those will keep the door in a full open position.
Right. The hang so
this is, just hang it right in the hinge. I never relied on a chock under the door. So, and that was a wash down nozzle. Can you open it up all the way?
Timmy, did you carry that tip on there?
Yeah, I did carry the tip. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've never met anybody else who carried that. I have the same.
Yeah, did you carry it too?
Yes, I carried.
Yeah, I used to. You know what? I used it in the projects. I'd vent out the window with it.
Yes.
That's exactly what I did with it. Did you carry a teddy bear?
What a teddy bear!
Where's the
you didn't carry a teddy bear?
That makes so much sense.
You know why I carried a teddy bear, right?
Yes.
What am I looking at?
Why did I carry a teddy bear?
If you come across a kid who's freaked out and you want to carry him out, you give him the teddy bear as a something to calm him down.
Okay, kind of the same but different. So I used to do when I'd get to the fire floor, I'd give it to the guys in the truck so they'd know they'd be okay till I get back from doing my job.
I like
That's why that picture had to be in there.
See, now the advantage I have over both Bobby and Tim, I know where Bobby did his time, and I believe Tim was in 69, not 28. I think I had enough time in 131 and 123 that I got a taste of what the truck mentality. No, what the truck mentality is, and how sometimes it works against engine operations.
Yeah. Destruction from all positions is what I've been told.
No, we talked about this. We talked about this the other day. Bobby, you're right. We talked about this the other day about a truck guy taking an engine, and what happens is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is like a truck guy thinks that engine work is on off. And he doesn't understand what it takes to get the nozzle where it needs to do the best good. He doesn't understand the stretch. And that's the problem when a truck guy that's been a truck guy becomes an engine officer. He doesn't understand the stretch. He understands on and off, and he understands being in the fire department. But he doesn't understand anything before that, getting that nozzle to the door of the fire department and putting enough hose in a position to do what it needs to do. And that's some of the trouble with a guy from a truck taking an engine. He just doesn't understand all the difficulties it takes of getting that line where it needs to do the best good.
So are you saying that truckies only have two speeds, that is on and moron?
No, stupid and stupid.
You have to.
You know what? Hey, listen. Do you know why truck guys cut holes in the roof?
Why is that?
So they can look down and see the real firemen doing their job.
All right, I'm gonna one up you on that. So we agree that putting out a fire is what a fireman does. Okay,
Yes.
That's pretty all right. How many guys spent their whole career in a truck and never put a fire out?
I'm sure
Plenty.
quite a bit. I'm sure quite a bit.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've only
So
had
there-
nozzle jobs myself, actually.
It doesn't make them not firemen, but they,
No, I know.
when
I
they
know that.
cross over that line, it's very hard. They don't understand. Like, listen, the best engines in the city worked with the best trucks. That's what made the engines the best. And the best trucks in the city, the engines that they were with made them the best. It wasn't a one-way street. You couldn't have a good truck without a good engine. There's no way. It didn't happen. The best trucks, the guys who went to Metal Day every year, they worked with the best engines in the city that didn't go to Metal Day.
but how much fun our whole career? It's the truck versus the engine. You can't let that go. All right.
No, I can't.
Don't apologize too much.
I'm not going to apologize. No, I'm not apologizing. Like, listen, I would have made a medal one day, but I had to stop and help the truck guys up above the curb. You know what I mean?
Oh.
And even the squad is even lower than that.
The squad is. What was the shirt that I just posted? It was the '92 class. It said, what the hell did it say? Lower than well shit. I forget what the heck it was. I have to look it up. It's on my thing. But
it must have left an indelible impression.
Yeah, no, it was good. I have it on my thing here. I just got to make sure I get the wording right.
Like the Panther is great, but what makes a good engine good is the truck, and what makes a good truck good is the engine. Hands down, you can't argue that. The truck, if they know that engine's going to push that line in there.
What does that say? Can't see it, Ruff.
Yeah, so that's the picture. That was
lower than whale shit.
Yeah, it's lower than whale shit, right? So you see that the Proby's under the whale in that picture, and then right, the next thing that was on the back, it said Proby, and like it was in the dictionary. It says the sediment on the ocean floor most commonly found beneath whale shit.
And the next thing above that was truck guy, right?
Let me. So, do you three subscribe to the thinking that every guy at a Proby school should go to an engine first before he goes to a truck?
Absolutely, but it can't. It's not possible, but absolutely.
What about you, Bob?
That's why this rotation thing isn't as bad as you think. Sometimes,
Yeah,
guy gets a little taste in the engine.
Do they still have that?
I believe they do.
They do.
No, they do. For it's Timmy is saying no.
Not as in depth as it was.
No, they do a year.
They still do 6 months. They're doing a 6 months.
Right.
The year rotation is over. That ended in 9/11.
But they
wasn't
still
a bad idea, though, right?
No, I.
So I looked at it differently. If you were in a really good company, it made you hate the companies you were with.
Yeah.
And if you were in a really bad company, it made you hate the company you were with. So, you know what I mean? But it train the guys 100%. It trained the guys. Yeah. There's no question about it. So in the jobs viewpoint, it was a great thing. But for me, I looked at it like, man, if you hated where you were and you saw how the real job was, you just didn't want to go back to your place.
Yeah. That's why at least you got the opportunity to see it. Some guys go to a place and they think that's all there is to the job. They don't see what's out there. They don't get to see different aspects of the job.
It's funny for me is I'll hear stories about the rescue company. I know a couple of guys in the rescue. Freddie Hill in Rescue 4, and I'm very good friends with. And he'll tell me he'll go to fires in Queens and he'll find the nozzle at the top of the stairs. I'm like, there's not a chance that happens. And I'm like, he goes, Timmy, all the time. I go, this is the New York City Fire Department.
I don't know about all the time. We've seen it.
I wouldn't say all the time either.
I wouldn't say all the time.
I can count on a few hands, but
I've never seen it. I mean, luckily I've worked in 69 and 88 and 47, but I've never, those companies push 289, 283. I mean, come on. I mean,
listen, you go to 289 or places 138, 154, you ain't getting to the fire department. They're gonna block you. But the easier it is to walk up into the fire department, and you know that the guys.
The funny thing is that's the thing that guys that are watching this need to know, is that whether you're from New York or from Oshkosh or wherever you're from, if you have pride in your company and you train and do your job and be the best that you can be, you're the one that people are going to look to. Now that's the important thing, because your audience is far beyond New York City, and when guys that are listening to this and say, hey, listen, if I had to tell you one thing, be the best you can be, then you show up and you're ready to go to work, you're going to be that guy that gets put to work, whether you're in New York City. Like we in New York City know, we will show up, we're ready to go to work. We tell the chief, hey, I'm ready to go to work. You're going to go to work. So you go to places like when I was a volley up in upstate New York in Montgomery, we would show up as a mutual aid company, and they would always put us to work because they knew we were ready to go to work, whether we were an engine or a truck. And that's training. That's that pride. That's all that stuff. There's a lot of places, like where my son works. I got that video, a real good engine video. There's good bosses down there. Chad Hines, Joe Staggs. I mean, those guys are great. They're as good as any engine officer anywhere.
What do you got, Ruff? You got more? Who else?
Can I ask? These are for my two compatriots here. Control position in the engine. Most truck details that go to an engine get control. All right.
No.
Well, I'm just saying in general.
98.
That's kind of all right. That's what I'm. I was not a big fan of that because it's important. Bobby.
I used to take, if the guy I knew who did any time in an engine and then he went to the truck, I would weigh it and then I would give him, the control. But most of the time they had the door, and I put my own guy on control.
Which when the job went officially to equipment that each position carries, and they went to the control, the standpipe kit, the officer shall take. Did you do it, Bobby? No, the control man shall take. Did you do it, Bobby? Did you do it, Timmy?
I always carried the standpipe kit.
Timmy?
Well, see, I like carrying a standpipe kit because when I dropped the standpipe kit, I made my decision when I want you to go.
That's where I want. That's where I want them to hook up.
Because it used to be funny with covering officers. That's what we did in 289. The officer took the kit because you know that it's where it's supposed to be.
You thought you were asking for their kidney if you had to tell them to take it. It used to make me sick. It used to make me sick. Guys used to complain and bitch about it, and it used to make me crazy.
It's like you know where it has to go. You're sure that it's there. Is it really that much heavier?
Well, our standpipe kit weighed about 50 pounds, so maybe I can understand a little bit.
Nope, I carried it.
Shit.
What helped me over?
Again, it's funny how, like that old era of Rick, and ours is bridged a little bit with like carrying a standpipe kit is like, and it's those little things, those little nuances that make the difference of like when I drop that kit, there's no conversation. This is where you're hooking up.
Yeah.
So like we're far apart, but we're not that far apart. We're far apart in the overall thinking where, in Rick's day and age, it was about them. And now it's about them, but it's starting to be more about us. And so that bridge isn't really too far. Like when Six says, "Hey, we carried it, we dropped it here." That's how they knew, where we were hooking up.
Well, I'll give you another example of a company that knows their area and what they're supposed to do for themselves. 290 in certain parts of Starrett, the furthest room stretching from where we were stretching from is 5 lengths to get to the rear room. So the control man would carry 2 lengths himself. So you had all the guys carrying 3. He would take 2, and I would take the standpipe kit. And do you know that guys that came on details would complain about carrying 2 lengths of hose? I don't want to go bad. I don't want to say, but this is what, when we talk about 290, we talk about people that came there and had an aura about, union stuff and all of this other crap. You talk about a company that would, in my mind, you couldn't get more squared away than that company. And they obviously knew. Listen, we were carrying 5 lengths because it was for us, right? We were going to put the fire out. That's called pride, right? We weren't going to wait for another company to bring up another line because we would have to stretch that line because we knew this would be the furthest. If the apartment was the furthest from the standpipe, we knew to get into the back of that apartment, we had to have 5 lines. How many companies are doing that? How many places around the world are doing that? Around the country are doing that.
That's like we said that, like you said that the one word you used there was pride. Pride in what you do. This is our fire. I'm not waiting for anybody else. I learned the hard way. The very first fire I had as a lieutenant was in a project building. And, I got a lot of good out of it. I got a lot of, my chauffeur told me, he goes, that was the calmest 1075 I ever heard. But we stretched short because I didn't know the building. Came up 5 feet short. I had to watch 45 engine come in with another line and put my fire out.
Bet you never did that again.
No, I never did that again. And, but that's 5 links. That's one guy carrying 2 links. You don't want to carry 2 links? You know what? Take the details somewhere else. This is what we do, and this is how we operate. And that's for anywhere you are, whether it's Bump Funk, Idaho. This is what we do, and this is how we operate. And if everybody had that mindset, this is what we do, 290. Like I asked the guy, and I'm not blowing smoke up 290's ass, a very, very good friend of mine. I asked him, what's the busiest company of all time? He said, well, it's one or two, 58 engine or 290. They've been doing that for 150 years. You know what I mean? They don't do it because they think it's okay. They do it because they know it works. And that's what engines got to understand. Is like, listen, if we can't get water in the fire, everything else goes wrong. We've got to do this. And, I love that pride thing. I think it's great.
Well, I'm sure Rick would say this. The Chief Mooney was on last week.
I love Chief Mooney. He's a great guy.
He said to, guys say, they're living off their reputation. And a guy in 290 said, no, we're living up, trying to live up
to
that
that. Yeah,
reputation. That to me was the perfect line, because that you live up to it when you're doing the work, when you're trying to still do the work. You're training, you're drilling. That's living up to it. Living off it is when you're not doing shit. And you're busy because that's what they did 25 years ago, and you ain't doing anything to keep that going.
I have a stretching question, just out of curiosity, what they did. I know Bobby had projects. Tim, you had projects by you.
Yeah, we had tons.
All right, so we're talking scissor stairs. All right, you had a
picture of scissor stairs.
You had a picture of scissor stairs. I don't remember how it started, but it became very useful. So tip and with the control, the standpipe kit and all of that, typically you're on the floor below, and you're stretching 2.5. This is before the lead length being 1 3/4. So it was a ball breaker, 2.5 in a fireproof. So if you're stretching on the floor below and you go up the stairs, if the fire was still in the same direction of you stretching up that stair and through the doorway, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
But if you had to make a turn and go the other end of the hallway, it was a fucking ball break, all right? So what we started to do, and I don't know if it was written or anything, is on the floor below, we would use that hallway, and we would go to the other stair. And now we go up the stair, and we're in the direction of where we have to go. Is that something you remember doing, or you saw people do that? What's your spin on it?
Go ahead,
do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, we did both, but it was always I would strive to do what you just said. Okay, go up the stairs, and then we'd be in the direction of the fire.
Yeah, but
it didn't always work though.
Right, but if you knew that you're going to have to make a turn, rather than make the turn on the floor above, you would do it downstairs.
It was easier.
Go into the other stairwell and go up that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which
People
made it a lot easier.
That.
You don't have to turn to 2.5.
Yeah. Timmy?
So we didn't have a lot of buildings in our district that had that. We had a lot of scissor stairs, but we didn't have that. We had a couple that you'd have to decide on the floor below. On the floor below, you'd almost have to go in the opposite direction of the fire department and then up the stairs. So when you got up to the top of the stairs, you were going in the direction of the fire department.
Yeah, that's if it wasn't scissor stairs. Yeah.
So the scissor stairs, to this day, they still confuse me.
I wish we had a picture of
we had
picture too, yeah.
Christ almighty.
Please do your job, will you?
We had left rack. There's probably like 8 buildings.
Let's go.
Scissor stairs.
There
we go.
If only some enterprising producer called those things scissor stairs.
But they're scissor stairs.
Yes.
So basically, it's 2 stairs in 2 different directions, built in one core.
One building. Yeah.
Yeah, and on each
they're built on top of each other.
And on each floor, they're in a different. The entrance and exit doors in a different spot.
direction.
They're not in line. Yeah, they're
not in a different direction.
Yeah.
So you can come out on the fire floor 20 to 30 feet farther away from the fire department than you would on the floor below.
Correct.
That's what scissor stairs do. And sometimes even around a corner. So for us in Harlem, we had a ton, everything we had was scissor stairs. But there was only one complex that it was built in a core that went behind the elevator that we would do that. But we would always stretch from the floor below right up. Even if we had to make the turn, we'd make that turn.
All right.
If that makes any sense to anybody listening, to come up and hook up and then make the turn and go the other direction. And that's what Rick is saying. Like, usually you want to come up the stairs and go the same direction out the stairway as the standpipe outlet. But what Rick is saying is come up the stairs and we have to turn and go the opposite direction.
And that sucked. So if you can make it a little easier, it helps. Yeah.
Right.
Especially if the door's open.
Kevin, you were a chauffeur, right, Kevin?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Did you bring up the pictures of the hydrant hookups, Pete? Did you strive to do that when you were hooking up?
Wait, excuse me. Which
The hydrant.
The hydrant.
Yeah, I got you. Sorry.
Johnny Pump.
I got you.
Did you
Johnny on the pony.
Did you try to do that, Kevin, or
Put the gate on it, you mean?
Yeah.
The pictures we have the gate on it?
Yeah.
I don't believe I did, but it was talked about. No, not that one, Pete.
Yeah.
And the one before it. And the one
I might have done it once or twice. I can't recall offhand, Bob. But I mean, it's a great idea.
You see it more and more, I think.
It's not a new idea. I kind of remember that pretty frequently in 235 because there was so many out of service hydrants from vandalism.
Uh-huh.
So that you kind of wanted to if you had a good hydrant.
Yeah, I don't ever remember really seeing that too often myself.
I think that's more lately you've seen it. I don't know, Timmy, did they do that up in the Bronx too? Or?
Timmy's in the bathroom.
Oh, is he? All right.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea.
One thing
It just Mel Harper, who was a lieutenant in 235. I kind of remember, just jumped into my head. Passing a hydrant before the fire building. If we knew it was good, he didn't really want to pass it, but he didn't want to stop there either. So he put together a milk crate that we knew we were going to do 3.5? This is how out of the loop I am. Yeah, 3.5 would get dropped off with the gate. Mm-hmm. And then they would take off, past the building to leave it open for the truck. But then any subsequent engine that needed a supply, they knew it was good to go.
That's a great idea.
Mm. One thing that helped me being a boss over the years was being that I had gone to chauffeur school, and when I knew the chauffeur was having trouble with something, you kind of could think in your head how you can help him get through it. Not that you're going to run out and do it, but you know what he was going through.
Right.
Being a chauffeur. So, I mean,
you guys both chauffeurs as well. Tim, you were a chauffeur?
I was a chauffeur too, yeah. And I agree with Bobby. It helped me a lot as an officer. Sometimes it didn't when I was waiting for water, but I understood that. But the picture he put up about the augmentation, it's one of the things we put in the engine manual also. It's an important thing to put out there. If take the time to put that gate on that hydrant. If you can augment yourself and supply yourself with another 2.5-inch line of water, that's it doesn't look like much, but that 2.5-inch gate supply off a hydrant is huge when it comes to an expanding situation. So, if you're an engine officer and you're training your chauffeurs, if they're hooking up to a hydrant, make sure they can maximize that hydrant.
Is that happening more now, Tim?
It definitely is. It's happening more once we started doing the water loss drill. Chauffeurs were coming, to the conclusion that this meant a lot, that you can solve a lot of issues with that self-augmentation. You know, you don't need that 1070 signal, which for us, for anybody that doesn't know, is we're having a water issue. You know, it doesn't really define what it is. It just says we have a water issue, and this solves a lot of that. You know, just taking an extra 15 seconds and putting that 2.5 gauge on that hydrant and hooking up, because then you can augment yourself. You know, especially if it's in an expanding situation.
Yeah,
what are you saying? Just to bring more water to the rig with that?
It's going to bring more. It's 100% going to bring more water into the rig. And, you know, like I said earlier, the volume and pressure, two different things. And that's what most guys, that when they talk about water, don't understand, is that volume and pressure are two different things. I can get a ton of water out of a hydrant, but I can get no pressure. I can get a lot of pressure out of a hydrant, but I can get no volume. So what this will do, it'll keep your volume out of the pressure, out of that hydrant. So if you have an expanding situation and you got to supply multiple hand lines, that 2.5 is going to give you the ability to do that.
Right.
How often does that happen with the guys on the job now? I don't think I've ever seen
more
that.
And more.
Really?
Yeah. Well, 88. You know, we actually on our door, the chauffeur's door, that 2.5-inch gate, the one-way gate, is attached right to the door of the rig. So when they open the door, it's right there. So, I mean, they see it. That's the first thing they grab, is that 2.5-inch.
I was going to say that has to be the first thing you put on. I mean,
well, they grab it, they drop it right by that, and they put it on, and then they,
Yeah, that's
and what it does is that there isn't, and most times there isn't a cap there either. So
so you could use it as a cap. Right.
You know,
I think you're seeing by the time I retired, it was going on more and more, I think. And like Timmy said, with that engine drill that they were given, the water loss drill, more and more companies were looking at that.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
I think it's a great solution.
What about you? Just to touch on chauffeurs again, I don't know if it's still in the protocol of training a chauffeur, sending them back to the field. I'm sure Chief of Operations John Hodgins is watching tonight. His dad was one of my the new chief of department. No more acting. His dad was one of my lieutenants in 235. What I wish they would adopt, if they haven't, is when a new chauffeur comes out of school and goes back to the company, he can't be detailed to drive like immediately as first to a back, because it's already intimidating enough if you're in the house.
Oh, hell yeah.
And
To drive,
you know where you're going.
On
a night tour.
Drive the rig, knowing the boxes, and now you got to get water on maybe your worst fire in your life.
Yeah.
It would just be nice for a few weeks, like you can't be detailed, drive in your company first, and then you'll be detailed out.
Good point. I like it.
I like it too, but it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Rick,
the first time, and in truth, to be honest, the first time a chauffeur-trained chauffeur drives is going to be in another company. 100%. 100%.
Well, that's the norm. Yeah. It's
100% of the time.
My first tour back as a chauffeur in 332, I was detailed to the tin house, and my first run in the tin house was a job.
Me too, 80 engine.
So I know exactly what you meant, and it was like, oh my god.
Did you say 80 engine? 80 engine. Detailed the 80 engine. Drove to a job.
Did you save your underwear from that night?
Nah.
You want to see it? You want to see it? I'll go get it.
No.
I think on that note, we might have to wrap.
Oh, come on. We're just getting
as low as we
started
could
here.
go right there.
We're talking about the underwear, man. Come on.
All right, Lou.
That's it. We lost Pete.
You got any last? Oh, he woke up. There we go.
He's been very quiet, man.
Yeah.
Listen, this is not my.
He's sleeping. I think he might have been sleeping with his eyes open. I don't know.
No, it's just not my area of. I know nothing. I know less than nothing. In fact,
he's got very droopy eyelids right now.
I've been drinking.
You should be drinking.
All right, Roof, let's do some shout
That's what
outs.
engine guys do.
They drink and they fight fire. And they know things.
Oh.
What do you got, Roof? You got anything to put a ball? I thought you had a shout out.
No, but Lieutenant Bruno talked about it. We were going to do a shout out.
Oh, anybody else have a shout out before I give my shout out?
Well, like I always have a shout out. Like,
yes, absolutely.
So I essentially, how about can we do the evaluate and smoke video?
Oh yeah,
right.
yeah. That's a
Oh, look,
Like,
Petey
listen,
woke up. I wonder
Oh,
why.
look,
Petey's full of energy.
Before you do this, like any engine officers, got to be able to evaluate smoke, right? I mean, you pull up, you look at the building. Rick, would you agree? You see smoke pushing out of the building, and you evaluate what you have.
Correct. It's
He's like, all right.
Leading them
part
down
Where is
the
this
Primrose
going?
Pass.
Yeah.
part of size up.
So I sent the video about, like what would you evaluate? So
This might be about size.
yeah.
Hold on.
So
here it
evaluate the video.
What?
So what's burning, bro?
comes. My word.
My word. That's
Oh my. Oh my.
Oh,
I think we
my
got a
God.
fire problem.
yeah, Bob.
All right. Is that where we've gone? Is that the last shot?
That's got it.
That is it. I hope. I hope we.
I got what Petey.
I hope that was the lowest. Oh, what happened?
Oh, he just that didn't
Who
help.
dipped out? That was Rick. Dipped out on
He
us.
said, "That's it. I had enough with this stuff."
All right, Pete.
he's
Pull up
back.
my quick.
He's back.
The thing that the guy sent us. Do you have that one?
I do. I got it. Here you go.
Look at that. This guy sent this, which I'm gonna send to Louis. His name is Chris. I don't know how to say his last name. Visvardes. And I've been.
Oh yeah, he's in the chat right now.
He is. Pete, can you read that? I can't read it with my glasses.
Yeah, I got you. Chris said, hold on a second. My name is Christopher Visvardes. I've been a subscriber since day one. Hands down, the best podcast on the net. Doesn't need to be self-proclaimed when it's a fact. It's amazing to see the community you guys have built and how far you guys have come. I've been contemplating how to show you guys my appreciation for all you guys have done. I know this doesn't even pale in comparison, but please accept this as a token of my appreciation for everything you guys do and continue to do. If you guys ever come to Wisconsin, let's see. If you guys ever we have plenty of breweries to tour, including the Miller/Coors Brewery in Milwaukee. I'll buy you the first round. Stay low and go, bros. From all of us in the Leatherhead Nation, we appreciate you sincerely, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate
Chris,
it, brother.
thank you.
I took a screenshot of that.
Louis will be whacking some balls.
Well, all I can say is nice balls.
Nice
Hey.
balls. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's not far from Seagrave. That's not far at all from Seagrave.
Oh, maybe we'll do a show out in Seagrave. You come with us, Lieutenant Sean. We'll do a Seagrave. Beautiful. All right, I want to thank you guys for coming on. The wealth of knowledge is
Nice job, boys. Very
remarkable.
nice.
Excellent.
Thank you for having us on before we go up to heaven.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Get too old and go up to heaven.
Thank you for.
I know you, Tim. You're a baby.
Some of us are closer
I
than
do have
others.
this pain right here.
Thank you for staying up so late.
Fucking 70s, which is
70s.
Like a tough number. Oh,
Jesus,
God.
hey, Rick, Jesus Christ,
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Good news.
Yes, thank you for staying up so late past your bedtime. I appreciate
Del
it.
Boca Vista gang.
Del Boca Vista
I gotta
gang.
go change my Depends.
Yeah, change the depends.
Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Come
All right.
on, man.
What's today, Monday? What do we have Thursday? We have something
I'm
on
still
Thursday?
drinking.
I don't think we have anything
Yeah,
planned Thursday.
Timmy, me too.
Oh,
Yeah,
Pete's not here on Thursday, right?
Yeah, I'm away in hot Atlanta on a big shoot for 3
Big
days.
shoot. So Pete's not
Atlanta,
here.
come down and visit me, bro. I'm 100 miles from you.
Yes.
Well, we'll see if the schedule.
Gary.
Stop it. You're lying.
Gary,
There you go.
I can
Gary.
tell you how nozzle works. On, off.
Oh,
On,
great
off.
job. All right, that's all. In that case, that's all I got here.
Gary.
Thanks.
Oh, Pete's woke
All right.
up now. That's it.
Listen, Pete woke up all of a sudden. All right, we'll see you guys, I guess, next Monday. Right, Roof? Pete, have a good shoot. Guys,
right.
get to bed. Be safe. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for
And,
having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
yes.
I hope
Stay on for now.
Just hang with
hang
us
loose.
for 1 minuto here, guys. We're on all the players for audio, so iTunes, podcast, Spotify, iHeart, anywhere you can find podcasts. So look it up there if you want to listen to the show. But if you're on here on youtube.com/Getting Salty Experience, hit that like, subscribe, and share button. Come on, man. We've got 45. No, hold on.
Come on, man.
We've got 45,000 people in the in the fans page, and we have 25,000 on the YouTube page. So
come on, man.
Hook it up. Get in there. Like, subscribe, and share. Okay, if you're on Instagram, @SaltyDogInc is where you find us. Get all the last-minute info for the show. GettingSaltyApparel.com. Guys, that is the wares, okay? So check out our wares there. Thank you to everybody who hooked us up in the super chat. Thank you to anyone who's hooking us up in the super thanks. Facebook, guys, Getting Salty fans page, 45,000 strong. It is awesome. Go check that out. Getting Salty ads at gmail.com. If you guys would like to advertise with the show, I will give you my spiel. Getting Salty experience at gmail.com for any questions for the show, for our Q&As. Also, for our cocklofts and cocktails, shoot all your fire photos, helmet cam footage. It doesn't have to be yours, it could be someone else's. Hot old lady contest, mustache photos, tattoo photos, all that cool stuff at Coobs Podcast at gmail.com. And that is all the news that's fit to print.
Really?
Excellent. Yep,
Hey.
we got a lot. So we got to put a couple.
What
of
about
shows
Chris
together.
Knight?
About
What
what?
about Chris Knight?
Who?
Chris Knight, man. He's the man.
Who's Chris Knight? Anybody know what he's talking about?
I'm just fucking with you.
Oh, my
All
God.
right.
Oh.
Cut him off. Cut him off. Put the booze down. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Stay low and go.
All right, everybody. We'll see you at the big one.
Cheers,
Good night.
everybody.
Good night, everybody.